All right, better. I want to. Here's one of the things this week. I'll tell you is that I struggled this week while writing the message. As Matt was here throughout the week and he was helping me out, he just saw that I was struggling with it, and he goes, "Mike, you just got to be you and you got to do what you got to do." But one of the things that happened this week is we had a tragedy. Anybody watch the news at all this week? Anybody seen that a school was assaulted again? And so for me, it threw me in a little bit of a conflict because I had a plan and a purpose and a direction that I was going to go, and yet last night as I was sitting there and I was trying to figure out which direction I got conflicted, and I said, you know what? I crumpled it up and I said, we're going to start again. And so I wrote something that's a little more. And the bad part is that there's some combination of it. I really want to talk about some of the stuff that was from the video, from what I was talking about, what I was intending to talk about, and then also about the tragedy that we've had this week. And see, for me, I'm going to tell you right now is that I'm going to offend some of you guys because you guys are going to go, I hate guns, but I'm a firm Second Amendment believer. Okay, here's the thing. I believe that a country that is oppressed or can be oppressed by its government needs to be able to defend itself. Okay, but I'm definitely opposed to our schools being shot up. And I'm definitely opposed to what's happening, and I'm definitely opposed to what, just everybody gets them, and it's just free for all. And we've got to do something, we have to change it. Okay, we have to change it. We have to change what's going on, and I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that every major thing that changes starts at a grassroots level. Everything changes based upon what we do, and it can start. Guys, I want you to understand something. It's that Christianity starts as a movement of 11 people. It's Jesus, and there's 12 others, but the one betrays him. And so you got to remember, but this movement starts at 11 people, and we go, and we have to stop with just going on Facebook and going, I'm against this, and we actually have to start doing something and start a movement here. And the problem that I've had and the things that I've seen is that we're not actually doing that. We talk about it, but we don't actually do anything about it. And I don't have an answer. Okay, first off, I'm not a person that's going to come up here and be like, we should do this, 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 and this. But I think that as Christians, we have failed to do two things, is that we have failed to love one another, and we've failed deeply, deeply at discipline. We have failed deeply at discipline. And if we want to go, hey, how do we love and how do we do discipline? And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And kind of what I originally was going to start talking about, and there's an incident in Luke 24. And so Jesus, and there's no notes for this because I was doing a complete different message. But the notes that you have are going to be fill in the blanks for today. Anyway, so if you're on your app or whatever, you're filling it out, then keep going. I'll get to that here in a second. So in Luke 24, verses 13 through roughly 24 or 26, two disciples are walking on a road to Emmaus. And as they're on this road, it's 7 miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus. And all of a sudden, as they start this trek, as they start this journey, a person appears to them. And as we look back, we know that it's Jesus, but a person appears to them, and they don't know this. And so I go, what prevents them from seeing this? And so did they have their blinders on? Did they have, did the person have a cloak on? Did they have, was he walking around like Yoda with his hood up? I don't know what's going on here, but I know that as you sit there and you watch this, he's walking along with them. And he starts having this conversation, and he goes, where are you guys going? And they start with this whole, we thought we were following the Messiah. We thought that we were following Jesus, who was supposed to be the guy who was going to come, and we thought that we were doing the right thing. He's like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, haven't you heard? How did you not hear what was happening in Jerusalem this weekend? You just missed Passover. You just missed the crucifixion of Jesus, and now he's missing out of the tomb. And he goes, how do you not know anything about this? And Jesus just walks along with them and hears them. And they start to question, and they even start to doubt more. And they go, are we really following the right person? And then you start to see the turn of Jesus going, well, wait a minute here. What about all the things that he did? What about all that he did? And what about all the healings that you've seen? And he just starts talking about how he responded to others, how he did all these different things. He's all, what about those things? And he has to go and sell himself to them again. We've gone from being followers to going, I have to question and re-believe all over again after whatever tragedy happens. So we look and we see this tragedy that happens at a school, and we go, where's God at? We see a tragedy that happens where somebody gets sick. Where's God at? We see this, and God goes, well, what about all the times that I was here for this, and this? Haven't you missed it? What's happened? And see, and for us, we have to go back and go, I've got to find my faith all over again. I've got to find what I'm supposed to be doing. And the problem is that Jesus has been right there next to you the whole time. He's been walking along. And see, the thing is, they get all the way to Emmaus, they get to this house, and it's dusk. And back then at the time, when it gets dark, people were friendly. And what do? You welcome your neighbor in. Who's your neighbor? Everybody. And so if somebody's walking down the street, and it looks like they're traveling to the next village, what do? You welcome them in. Dust off your sandals. Let me wash your feet. Let me get you some food. Hang out here with us tonight. We don't do that now, but that's what happened back then. And finally, as they sit down to the meal, Jesus does what he did very similar a couple of days prior, and he prays over the meal, and then he starts to break bread. And finally, their eyes are opened. And they go, oh my gosh, they needed to see what he did and what he was. And that's where our problem has gotten. We needed to see something. We need to see him again. We need to see a miracle. And when you read in there and you go back to the Beatitudes, it says, blessed are those who believe without seeing. Guys, this is the biggest struggle that we're having, because you look at this and I'm going to tell you is that we will face this struggle more and more and more and more as this violence continues to increase. That's just what's going to happen. My question is how do we respond to this? What do we respond to the violence with? What would Jesus have us do? There's a big question here. What would Jesus have us do? Anybody in here, do you have a sibling? Anybody have any siblings? Okay. Anybody have an older sibling? Okay. You're going to love this. So, anybody, if you had an older sibling, maybe you are the older sibling, and you'll love this too. Do you think that birth order matters? Do you think it matters? And I bring this up because when you start looking at it, the firstborn is overly protected, right? The first one, oh no, don't do that. You can't be there. Don't bounce your head off the coffee table. That's not good for you. Overly protected, right? In fact, I bet at your house you went and bought all the safety stuff, right? You went and got the plug things that you put in there. You went and put the little bumpers around the table. You put a safety gate up at the stairs. You did all of those things to protect that child. Then number 2 came around, and you were like, man, I hope they don't put a knife in the plug, because that's going to hurt. You even took the plug covers out. You were like, oh, no, go away. You're going to learn, yeah. And then the next one, and then if you have another one, it happens again. But as siblings, you ever notice that the first one, the oldest, tends to pick on the younger or the younger children? I'm just telling you, they do. And so as an older brother or older sister, you torture, you harass, you haze, you beat up on, you pick on, you ignore them. They are not part of your family, right? You look at them and go, that's not me. My wife is in complete denial right now. She's like, I'm not doing that. I never did any of those things. And trust me, he's in the window going, yes, he did. Yeah, oh, yes, she did. Oh, yeah? Did you hang out in high school together? Oh, see, right there. You're not part of the cool kids. Of course not, because you're mean. So, by the way, if you're at home watching and you wanted to hear what her response was, you should have been here. Anyway. And so when you see this and you see what happens, but here's the thing. Here's what happens, right? Is if somebody else does it, it's a problem, right? It's a problem. Somebody else picks on your little brother or your little sister, or if you're being picked on by somebody else, who do you go run into? You go run into your older sibling, right? I can do that, but nobody else can. You better figure this out real quick. Well, I want you to know something. I was the youngest. I was the youngest at the home. And I had an older brother that was 10 years older than I am. So, and I remember it all the time. It was like 10 years and 6 days. It was a countdown for me. I was like, when are you turning 18 and leaving? Because he would pick on me. He'd put me in, I'd put me in the corner. I remember cowering in the corner, and he'd just come up and just beat up on me, right? And I'd be terrified in the corner. I'd be going, Mom! I'd be crying, and my mom would go, yeah, whatever, suck it up, baby, and my older brother would be like, I'm just toughening you up. And I go, what do you mean you're just toughening me up? What does that have to do with anything in this life? And sure enough, I was able to let a lot of things slide off of me because my older brother picked on me. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things that I went to, and nobody could do anything worse than my older brother. I went to a school, my elementary school I went to, I was obviously a little different. I still am a little different. It's just gone from little, but maybe a lot different. But here's what happened is that I went to this school, and so the school I went to, my mom didn't have a lot of money, right? And she had 3 of us that she was caring for, and so our shopping happened at Kmart. And so my jeans said Wrangler on the back of them before Brett Favre started saying these are cool. And so I walked around with Wranglers, and then I had, I don't know what they called the shoes, because they had like some weird logo on the side of them, the Kmart brand ones. As soon as you stepped in a puddle, the whole bottom of it came off. So you're like, they were like, it's raining outside. I'd be like, I can't go out there. The shoes would come off my feet. So I got to the school, and all the kids, what their response was to make fun of me. They were like, you're wearing Wranglers, ha, 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 ha. And I look back and go, look, Brett Favre's sporting them now. But that back then, 30 years ago, it was a different story. It was just it wasn't one of those things that you'd be like, oh, these are cool. No, you were like, I got picked on a lot. But what was my response is that that's nothing compared to what my brother did to me. That's nothing. But when I got bad enough, my brother showed up. And my brother just walked on campus one time. And he wasn't there he walked on and he just said, what's up? And then everybody changed their whole attitude at that point. It was like a whole different thing. And see, for me, I kind of look at it and I go, was it my older brother? And so for some of us, today we walk along and we have that same kind of stuff happening, right? We're getting picked on, we have this attitude, we have all this stuff that's being thrown at us. And how do we respond? We don't call mom and dad anymore, right? We're like, hey, Mommy, come get me. What our response is that we go, a healthy response should be let me call God. Let me call God and have him walk with me in this. Because then no matter what's happening, you're able to kind of walk with it, and you're able to go through this. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think too much is, especially now, we're holding on to things and we're forgetting to forgive. We're forgetting to forgive. And the Bible's fairly clear on forgiveness. And Jesus specifically spoke about it. And see, for us, we hold on to these things and we go, I'm so upset, I'm so angry, and we've missed out on the forgiveness. And we've missed out on doing what God has asked us to do. And we've missed out on how we're supposed to respond to these things. Because I look back at it and I go, man, I remember being in the 6th grade. I remember being in the 7th grade. And I was like, why aren't you leaving this house yet? Why are you still here picking on me? But I really got to the point where I wanted him dead. I did. I was like, I want you. I was like, if you're not leaving, please die. Something happened. And then I became a follower of Jesus. And now I look at it and I go, did he help me? Did he help me get through these things? Did he really toughen me up? Did he make it to where I could handle certain stuff? And I hated my brother. And now I look and I go, well, things had to change. Matthew 6:14-15. And when you look at this and it says, if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others of their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. All right, so we should stop here for a moment because I think this is important. How many of us are holding on to things and transgressions from other people that have made it to where we can't actually move forward in our lives? We're holding on to things, and we continue to let it weigh down on us. We continue to let it hold us back, and we're not actually moving forward. We're not going, how do we fix this situation? How do we forgive? What are we supposed to do to move forward? We get so caught up in what we're doing that we build this anger up, and we build this hate, and we build up this judgment, and we go, I'm so angry. I'm so upset at you. Why? You know, most of the time they just move forward, right? They just keep moving forward, and they're already on their way. For me, I started looking at this, and I read this, and I go, how can I ever forgive my brother for the abuse that I looked at it, he abused me. That's how I felt. And I get it now. I look at it, and I watch my oldest daughter do it to my youngest daughter, and I go, I guess that's normal, you know? But I go, how do you forgive that? How do you move past it? How do you do those things? I didn't want to forgive him. I didn't want to give that up. I didn't want to give that anger up and that, you know, and then you start looking at it, and now we've moved on to bigger sins, and we go, how can you forgive something that's so unforgivable? Look at this. We have somebody that goes in. Did you see what is? I'm just going to tell you, and I'm not, maybe I am judging a little bit here. The kid went to court this week, and he said, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And so for us, we look at this and we go, how do we say you're forgiven when you look at this and you go, that is so unforgivable? And then we reference back to this. And you go, wait a minute. How do I move forward? If I can't forgive and if I can't walk in and go, you're forgiven, and now granted, I'm not this person. But I will tell you is that there's an amazing display of forgiveness. It's Jesus on the cross. And I think that we miss this a lot of times, is that we miss this amazing display of forgiveness because we get so caught up in going, no, it didn't happen to you, it happened to me. But you've already been forgiven. You know, if we look, and I talked about Luke 24, if we look at Luke 23, imagine Jesus, the Son of God, completely innocent next to two criminals. Just imagine this. He's on a cross, and he's there next to these two criminals. And that's what he says in 32. So it's Luke 23:32. It says, two other men, both criminals, were also led out with Jesus to be executed. When they came to the place called Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals. On his right, one on his right, the other on his left. Now, I want you to, maybe I should explain something, because I don't think that we understand how excruciating the cross is. I don't think that we understand it at all. So I think that we see this, we see the cross, and we go, oh, that happened. But we don't understand the process that it takes to get to that. I think that we miss all the precursors that happened in order for him to be erected and to have to stand there with his arms out. So, and I'm going to tell you, if you walked in here and you're not a believer yet, you're going to walk out a believer, because every one of these things nobody will dispute. Nobody will dispute the portion of the cross. When you come in, because Jesus comes in, Jesus is tried and he's innocent. And he says, I find no fault. And they wash their hands of it. But yet, they still go on to this process and they beat him. So imagine this. Just imagine going through all of this, that they strip you down naked completely. And they, by stripping you down naked, they don't go, hey, can you take your shirt off in a sexy way? No. They rip it off of you. And they tear it up and they distribute it among everybody. And they go, they start tearing it up and they start tearing it apart to pieces. And they get him completely naked. Every time we've ever seen it, we only see him with a garment wrapped around his waist. That is not what happens. He is completely naked before they start to beat on him. And so I want you to think about this. And if you're a person that's jealous or angry, you will go on the attack on the places that you know that hurt the most. And so while we think that he's being whipped and he's being hit on his back, imagine that they're hitting every area that it can. So whether it's his feet, his privates, everything. And they're hitting him with a cat of nine tails. And so you're being, if I got to describe that for you, it's got stones and it's got glass and it's got broken pieces. And so when it hits, it grabs in and it pulls and it rips out. And so he's being beat, and as it happens, flesh is being pulled off. Muscles being pulled out. Blood is everywhere. So don't think that this is a magical scene that when they hang him up, he looks nice and toned and everything. Like, wow, that's a great picture that we've hung on the church. Because that's not what it looks like. And then they humiliate him and they go, the King of the Jews. And they beat a crown into his head. And so I have a crown of thorns at home. And it fell off the wall. I have it hanging on the wall next to a station that I used to do some work at, a little computer area. And when I went to pick it up, it hurt to grab it, and I knew that it was going to hurt to grab it. And it still, I was like, I'm going to be very careful. And I still ended up poking myself 3 or 4 times in order to put it away. And they took this, and they didn't just set it on his head and go, oh, that's going to be pretty. They put it on his head, and then they beat it down to where it pierced into his skin and was up against his skull. And it's probably, and so I want you to think about this, that the blood is pouring off of him. And his response is that he's being, and then he gets up, and they hang him, and then they come up, and then we also have the part of the crucifixion. It's where they actually put the nail through his wrist and his ankles, and then they hang him. Now, I want you to just think about this. And you have people, and you have one of the criminals going, save us. Save yourself. And you start looking at this, and Jesus' response is, Father, forgive them. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Wait, have we forgotten? Have we forgotten how to forgive? And we go, I can't ever do this. I can't, after what I've been through, after what I've gone through, I can never forgive them. After what I've seen, I can never forgive them. And yet the response and the example that Jesus leaves to us is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They have no idea that they're hurting. They have no idea that they're tearing apart families. They have no idea the destruction they're causing for years and years and years of abuse. And we get so caught up in this, and we go, we can't forgive. We can't let go. We can't go. But this is the example that's been given to us, to forgive no matter what is going on, no matter what's happened, so that your Father in heaven can forgive you. When you hold on to things and you harbor these feelings, you make it to where our Father in heaven looks down and goes, I want to, but you have to let go. You have to give it up. See, and here's the thing. Some of us have been wounded. Maybe you've been abused, took advantage. Maybe you've been betrayed. Most of us in here have been gossiped on. Might have happened to me yesterday, day before, every day this week probably. Just happens. Some of you, we've been lied about, we've been cheated on, the spouse has betrayed you, you've been called a Christian, you've done unchristian things, people point it out, people call you a bad parent, all of those things, and yet we held on to it. And see, we've taken a one-time offense and we turn it into a recurring thing. You know, we've taken that one-time offense, your in-law says, I would do things differently, and then all of a sudden, I hate the in-laws. Forever and ever and ever. Hope you die. My father-in-law got up like literally at the most inappropriate time there. He's like, I'm out of here. I know. But that's the thing. I'll tell you is that I have the greatest in-laws. They prayed and prayed. You know, they looked at and they said, I will tell you, this is a complete side note. They met me the first time, and they started praying. They said, oh my gosh, we better do something about this. And they got God involved right away. They said, we got to, you know. And see, I thought that they were trying to pray me away. They were like, hey, we got to pray him off. You know, we got to pray him away. But nope, they prayed for me. And they were like, hey, if this is who, I don't understand. We thought we raised her better than this, but if this is what she's going to bring home, she brought it home. And we got to fix him. Who knows what's next? You know. So, back to my seriousness now. Anyway, see, some of us, though, we've gotten to that point where we've allowed some of those things to make it to where we harbor these things forever. And it's not, and even then, it's not, and we've turned it into this recurring thing, this one-time thing, we've turned it into recurring. We live it over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, why do we keep going back to it? Why do we, and instead, it's, for me, I look at this, isn't it better to let God take over it? But instead of letting God take over, we get bitter at God. We go, God, why did you let this happen? And instead of letting him be in control, And we get bitter at God, and then we get mad at ourselves. You did this to me. Oh, why did I let this happen? And then you can't forgive yourself for allowing it to happen to yourself. You're like, I just can't believe this. So, how do we forgive? How do we forgive like Jesus did? I mean, that's what we're really looking for, right? How do we forgive like Jesus did? So the first one is, and if you're filling in or you're following along on our notes, it's pray for those who hurt you. That's the first thing you need to do, because that's what Jesus does. He responds, he goes, Father, please forgive them. And really, when you look at Luke 6:28, it says, bless those who curse you, pray for those who hurt you. When was the last time you prayed for the person that hurt you? In the past, whatever, when was the last time you prayed for them? Because I can tell you, most of the time we're not doing that. Most of the time we're not going, I need to pray for that person who did this to me. I need to pray for this person who allowed, whatever it was. We're not praying for that person. What we've done is we've gone into this mode where it's like, nope, it's me. I'm in control. I'm going to take care of this. But you need to pray for those that hurt you. And don't be like one of those prayers like, God, give them hemorrhoids. That's not an appropriate what we're talking about. What you really have to look at is, you have to go, God, how can we give them, God, how can you help them? Can you forgive them? Can you guide them towards you? Can you allow this to happen? And we forget so often that we have a responsibility to forgive those. We have this responsibility to act and to pray for others, especially those that we know that have hurt us, and they're probably going to go out and hurt others. Why wouldn't we go, God, please get involved here. Please help stop this. And we don't. We just go, nope, just keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. And we don't pray for them, and God, grow them. God, get them through this. God, heal them from whatever is stopping them from doing what you've asked them to do and changing their heart. And so here's one of the things that if you look at this is, if you go to Matthew, Jesus gives this jaw-dropping statement. And especially back then, especially when people look at this, back then people worshipped revenge. They were like, we've got to get revenge. And so in Matthew 5, it says, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. See, this back then, you just have to know that the Romans, everything was about revenge. You said something about me, I go kill your family. You said this or you did this, and it was kind of one of those things. And then when you look at Jewish law is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And yet he's going, forgive and pray for them. And we've gotten to this point, and so we go, what are we going to do, and how we respond? It's kind of confusing now. When you look at how politics have controlled what we do, it's become very confusing. You're like, I want eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, but man, we can't have the death penalty. Because that's just way out of, what are we going to do? And so we've kind of created this monster in politics. And we've allowed the political monster to control really what the Bible says to do. Now, I'm not saying that there's not consequences. I want you to understand something. Every action that you commit here has consequences. Okay? Every action. Sometimes they're earthly consequences, and sometimes they're eternal consequences. And I think a lot of times we forget that there are earthly consequences for people. That just because we forgive somebody doesn't mean that all of a sudden their consequences go away. That is, I forgive you, now you're free to go. No, there's still earthly consequences. We've established laws in this country and said this is what it is. This is what's going to happen. But for us to have eternal forgiveness, we need to be able to start forgiving here now. We have to start making a change. So and the question I start looking at this is going, did someone hurt you? Did someone devastate you? Did someone betray you? Pray for them. What are we doing? Pray for that friend that lied about you. Pray for that person that mistreated you. Pray for the parent who left you. Pray for the friend who let you down. And a lot of times we're not willing to do that. We get up to this point and we get to this mindset of going, I just wash my hands of them and I'm done. Instead of praying for them and going, I want to see better for them. I want to see their life changed. I want to see them come to know who Jesus is. And why did Jesus teach this? Why does Jesus say, I want you to do this? Because you have to understand something is that your attitude precedes your actions. Did you know that? Your attitude precedes your actions. I'll give you a perfect example. Anybody got a job that you really, don't put your hands up for this, but if you got a job that you really hate, right? Don't, cause you might work for me, and so I don't want that, but here's the thing, is that if you have a job you really hate, When you get up in the morning, it's not one of those, man, I'm looking forward to go to work, right? Even if you hate sometimes the job that we do just sucks, right? You know, I can't imagine the person that gets up every day to go work at the sewage treatment plant goes, man, love the smell of this place, can't wait to be here. Just can't imagine that. I mean, I just don't see that happening. But they might get up and go, I'm here because of the paycheck, the pay is good, I'm here because my boss treats me amazingly. But if they got to get up, and if their boss doesn't treat them well, if the company sucks, if everything, and they're really just there because they're trying to put food on the table, they get up in the morning and they go, this sucks. I hate this job. I hate this work. I hate what I'm doing. And then they're always looking for something else to find fulfillment in. Your attitude makes a difference. If you got up in the morning and you were like, woo, love this place. Yes, I work at a sewage treatment plant and I love the smell of it. Your attitude changes everything. How you respond and how you do things. Now, sometimes it's your work environment, but your attitude can be what changes the work environment. Everybody may have a bad day going, but if you show up and you're in a good mood, all of a sudden the day changes. Anybody ever heard a smile is? Oh, some of you heard it. Let's repeat it again. A smile is contagious. If you show up with a smile, what happens? People smile back. Even people who have just had that, Anybody ever seen that RBF statement? You smile at one of them, guess what you get? You get a smile back. It's weird. All of a sudden, they can't even help themselves. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. I'm not going to take you. I'm not going to tell you. But here's the thing, is that when we start looking at this, our attitude makes a difference. Our attitude changes things. Our attitude does these things. And see, if we continue to wait for the feeling, it'll never change. And see, we may be continuing to wait for the feeling when Jesus returns. Your attitude starts to change things. And see, here's the thing, is the Bible tells us that once you pray something, move as if it's already happening. So once you make that prayer, you already start to go, and I'm moving in that direction. I made a prayer. God, do you want me to start a church? Well, lead me in that direction. And I started moving in that direction. God, do you want me to forgive this person? I forgive them and move forward. God, do you want me to do this? Start moving in the direction that you sought counsel for from God and do what he's asked you to do. God, do you want me to do this? And then when you start asking that question, and then start asking, God, I'm asking for forgiveness. God asked me, I'm asking for this. And then start moving in the direction as if he's already answered the prayer, because he's saying that's how our faith works. Our faith works. You can't question it. You can't keep going, God, I have faith in a mustard seed, and then I'm going to question everything that you do. Well, we have to start doing it. God, move this mountain. Well, get the shovel and start helping. That's what it comes down to. If he's going to help us, let's start doing the work that we're supposed to do. When you start looking at this, and you start saying, where is this going to happen? Where's the change going to happen at? We are the change. It starts with us. It starts with us moving forward. We can't keep going, I'm going to wait for this feeling, I'm going to wait for this change. Make the prayer and move forward. And see, my prayer for others may not always be to change them, but it always changes me. I'll just tell you that. It changes how I respond to them, changes how I deal with them. It may not change them, but it changes me. The other thing is, you have to forgive as you've been forgiven. And I think that this is actually more crucial than anything, is because a lot of times we just hold on to one another. Colossians 3:13, forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. We just have to give this up. Anybody in here and I don't know about you, but I do know about me. The Lord has forgiven me. I know that. And maybe that's something you need to walk with. You need to go, I know that I'm forgiven. And I'm thankful that I'm forgiven because I've done some bad things. And I think that some of you have done some bad things too. I think that some of you have done some things that you don't ever want to be brought up. You're like, I don't want to talk about that. I think some of you have things that are like, I don't want to talk about where I played spin the bottle at. I don't want to talk about what I did here. I don't want to talk about any of those things. And then we get into this mindset and we go, but I've been forgiven. I don't want to, and I'm hoping that everybody else forgave me too. But we get so caught up in this and we don't do it. We don't actually forgive. And then what good is it to you holding on to a grudge? What good is it doing to you? I don't know where I heard it from or where I saw that, but there were these two Buddhist monks that were walking along the road, and they came to a river. And when they got to the river, there was a woman waiting on the side. And the group that they don't touch women, they don't speak, and the one monk looked and said, "Hey, there's a need here," and picked her up, carried her across the water. Got to the other side, they continued on their journey. But he could tell that there was something going on with the other monk. There was something happening. He could just tell, like, he was angry. Kind of like how you know that there's something wrong with your spouse. You start to talk with them, you're like, what's wrong? Nothing. And you're like, wait a minute here, you sound like it came from hell with that. There's something definitely going on. And so this is what's kind of going on. And so they get a couple miles down the road, and finally he's like, well, you haven't let this go. What's going on? And he brings it up, and the monk goes, I can't believe you carried her. That happened 5 miles ago. Why were you holding on to this? You're angry, you're upset, I'm sure your blood pressure is higher, all these other things that are happening. Why are you still holding on to this? Why isn't it something that you haven't let go of? I did. As soon as I put her down, I moved forward. But that's the problem, is that we hold on to it. And the thing is it gets us sick. Have you ever noticed that your anger, anybody get really angry in here? I'll tell you, when I'm really angry. I change colors, I'm a chameleon. I only actually have 2 colors. Well, I have 3 color settings. I have white, tan, and angry. And angry is red. Okay, and so when you see me, and if I look to be more of a tomatoish color, something happened that's bad. And the only reason why I bring that up is because I think that we know and we can see these things, but what that really is, your body is in a response mode. When you get to that, when you start doing that stuff, your blood pressure's elevated. Now it's opened up your capillaries to where it's starting to come out to your skin. This is your response. It's a fight or flight response. This is where your body's at. Do you think it's healthy for somebody who maybe has high blood pressure already? And have you ever seen what somebody does when they get angry and they leave? You ever seen anybody get angry and then walk out peacefully? I'm so angry, and then they, no. They go out and they try and kick the door off the hinges, and they try, and you don't ever see anybody walk away very peacefully, and especially when you're in a good argument, you make sure you slam a door behind you on your way out, and that's not healthy, by the way. Don't take that as being like, hey, that's what I'm supposed to do. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to let go, and we're supposed to forgive and pray for one another, and so your health reasons alone would help this. You just think about it. You get lower blood pressure, you better circulation, less depression, less anger, think about all the health benefits of actually forgiving people. Think about all the things that you just get to let go of off of your shoulders instead of carrying around the baggage. And the Bible talks about it. And God says, let it go. In fact, all of you have seen Frozen. They talked about it all the time in there too. Let it go. Come on, move forward. Hey, here's a good dad joke. It's Elsa, right? Is the one that sings the song? Why don't you give Elsa a balloon? Because she'll let it go. For all of you to tell to your kids later. Okay? Good dad joke. Anyway. God didn't say to hurt. That's what he didn't say. And he didn't say for you to hurt yourself, and that's what we do. See, and forgiving someone won't change the past. You have to know that too. Forgiving someone doesn't change the past, but it can change your future. Do you guys know that? Forgiving somebody for what the past hurts are and the past holdups and all that stuff, it will change. It doesn't change the past. It will change your future though. And then, because Jesus forgave me, I will forgive everybody else. It's very simple. I'll forgive those around me. Now, most of us, we don't realize that we've held ourselves prisoner. Most of us, we don't realize that we've locked ourselves up in unforgiveness and in anger and in hate and because of somebody that's wronged us in the past. And what happens is that it goes on and on and on like this, right? And we start to stew in it. And anybody ever seen anybody ever seen Shawshank Redemption, the movie? And the reason why I bring this up is because closer to the beginning of the movie, somebody gets paroled, right? They get released and they get back out there, and he goes and he starts to work in a store, but he was afraid to get out anyway, right? He was like, I don't want to get out, I don't want to go, and he became institutionalized. And so, and it's not just something from the movie, this actually happens to people as they become institutionalized. They get so used to living in the environment that they're living in that it becomes the new normality. Right? It becomes the new normal. And so for some of us, That's, some of us were so used to living being in anger, or so used to living in hate, and so used to living in this different way. That is just the normal for us. That is just our normal, everyday response to life. And we start looking at this and we start going, in the movie, he gets out and he goes out and he goes, I just got to figure out a way to commit a crime so I can go back to what I know is normal. See, the thing is that's what we've done to ourselves. We've placed ourselves in this unforgiveness prison. We've placed ourselves in this prison of hate. We've placed ourselves in this prison of anger. And we've made it to where we're not actually moving forward, that even when we do get a chance, an opportunity to forgive or an opportunity to open up the door and get out of it, that we actually close the door back in front of us. We're like, nope, I'm going to close that door because I like being angry. I like the drama. I like being upset. And we lock ourselves back up into that prison. We lock ourselves back up into this prison of our own device. It's not it's not an actual physical prison, but we've turned it into that mentally. We've caged ourselves and we've made it to where we don't allow others to move forward, and we hold ourselves back from moving forward because we won't forgive. We're like, I like it here. I want to be here. I like being angry at this person. You talk to people and they go, I don't want drama in my lives. Anybody who tells me I don't want drama, they have a whole ton of drama in their life. I don't want it, but I like having it around me. And I'm like, man, just let go of that stuff and move forward. Stop holding on to it. Stop thinking that you're going to change something by being angry at somebody else. Because you're not. You're not going to change somebody else's attitude. And see, this is what we've gotten to in this world when we start looking at this. We're not going to change anything by just being angry. We all are going, I want change for this. I want something different. I want to see something change in our schools, and I want to see something change in our churches. I want to see something change here. It's not going to happen if we're just angry about it and don't put our feet to action. If we just go, I'm just going to keep sitting here and moping and complaining and using the other word that I'm not allowed to say up here. But that's what we do. We complain and don't actually do any action. We don't actually forgive and start going, how do we make it to where it doesn't happen again? We go, nope, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to sit here and stew in it. When has that ever been healthy for anybody? When has that been healthy? When has that actually gotten you, when you look at this and go, man, I'm glad that my Father in heaven is looking down upon me and going, I'm doing the right thing. Because I'll tell you right now, he's probably not. I don't think that he's looking down and going, oh, I love that your blood pressure's so high, Mike. I love that you're so angry. Well done, good and faithful servant. I'm sure that's not what the statement is. I'm sure he's looking down and he goes, he's singing the song. He's going, let it go. Well, everybody will leave. I start singing. But that's what we have to get to. We have to get to this. That doesn't mean that we don't change something. We have to start making the changes that are necessary. We can let go of the anger and the hurt and and whatever else is going on. That doesn't mean that we don't change it. That doesn't mean that we don't go, okay, how do we prevent that from happening again? How do we go and move forward? What do we have to do to make a difference here? But just talking about it and stewing in it is not changing anything. That doesn't make it any different. We actually have to do something to make it different. What was that we're doing? Well, how are we going to change it? What does it look like? Because it starts now. We go, we need to have something different. Okay, we'll start coming up with a plan. Don't just go, hey, that's going to be, start coming up with a plan and start putting it to action. And you go, oh, well, what am I going to do? I just want you to know something. And I don't really want you to call me about this all the time because you can call your own state senator and your congressmen and stuff like that. But I know all of them in the area. I know all of them. I have a relationship with all of them. You know why? Just so I can call and go, hey, have we thought about doing this? Have we thought about making a change here? Do you have any idea who's even your representative here in this area? Do you have the slightest idea? See, maybe that's part of the problem. If you don't know who it is, how can you ever go, hey, that's the person that's out making changes in laws here? You have to actually reach out to them and go, this is what are you doing? And when you sit there and go, nope, I'm just going to post it on Facebook. Do you think that they're on Facebook? No, Trump's on Twitter. You can tweet about it all you want, and maybe some changes will happen. But really, if you're just posting it on there and you just have those anger statements, it's not changing anything. We have to look at this and go, how do I change this, and what do I do, and really start putting it to action. You just can't complain about it. How many people in here are getting off Facebook because all they see is just complaints? There's a lot of people that are going to be, you may not be raising your hands because you're like, oh, no, I'm on there, I'm stalking everybody. Can't miss out on that. But that's all you see on there, and complaints and, and people's pictures of food. Look what I'm having for dinner. Here you go. There's no real change happening. Where does real change happen? It happens here. It happens now. And what are we doing? And how are we going to make the change? And how do we move forward? And I'll tell you is that when we look at this and we go, that's unforgivable. What he did is unforgivable. Not in our Father in heaven's eyes. When you look up there and you go, what is he doing? It's forgivable. It is. Now, does it take away the earthly consequences? No. But if our Father can forgive, why can't we? Just think of all the things you've been forgiven of. Now, granted, it may not be as that bad. But I would just encourage you to be, instead of part of the complaining and harboring feelings, I would encourage you to forgive and start figuring out solutions. That's what I would encourage you to do. Forgive and go, how can I help fix this? How can I make it to where it doesn't happen to somebody else? How can I make it to where that nobody else has to go through this? And I will tell you is that every time it's better when you have Jesus involved. Jesus isn't great. The series is literally called Better. Jesus is greater than that. Jesus is greater than that. Seek him. Seek his counsel. Seek what he's looking for us to do. Seek what he's after in our lives, and how do we make the change? It started with 11. Every one of you are in this room right now because of Jesus and 11. That's why you're here. And billions of people know who Jesus is because of 11. There's a few more than 11 in here. There are a few more. Do you think that we can go off and do something? We can. And we just got to stop being, I'm just one person. We're not. Guys, I'll tell you, one person with God is amazing. Who wants to come against that? That's the mindset we need to be in. And that's how we need to move forward. Let's pray. Father, thank you for forgiveness. Thank you for forgiving us. When we called out and we asked for forgiveness, that you said that you just poured it out and you gave us grace, and you've allowed us to make mistakes, and you've allowed us to still come back. In fact, you've welcomed us. You've opened the doors, and you've met us out in the field when we come home seeking forgiveness. And you said, I've been waiting for you, and while we may have earthly consequences, we know that we still get life with you. Father, we ask that you give us the strength to step out, and the things that we want to make changes to, the things that you've called us to step out and to start performing actions that you would give us the strength to start doing those actions. The things that you said, I've put this on your heart because I want you to make a difference. I've put this on your heart because I want you to go and help with whatever it is. And be with us and give us the strength for it. Continuing to be that encouraging voice that we hear through your Spirit. That we hear that just keeps on, keep going, for we will reap a harvest. That the work is hard, but we will reap a harvest. That if we just keep doing what you've asked us to do. Father, we ask for discernment. To know where we need to let go of what's not working and to pick up what does work. Father, we ask for that wisdom. He told Solomon that all we have to do is ask for it and he would pour it out abundantly. And Father, we're asking. Allow us to have that wisdom. Allow us to not only have that wisdom, but to utilize it, to be able to help make change in the lives of those around us, to be that beacon, to be that city on a hill, to be the light in the darkness. We know that we can do it with you. We know that we can forgive anything with you. We know that we can move forward and stop living in the past and start living in the future that you'll have for us. Father, thank you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So, guys, today we're going to be changing up things a little bit. We've made some changes in announcements and stuff. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to start putting some of our church staff in front of you and some people that, you know, a lot of times you guys just, I'll just tell you, it's not just me and Melissa. There's a lot of people who make this go round. It just is. And the other thing is I just become a talking head. So honestly, I've been up here for 40 minutes, and so some of you are just tired of hearing me. And when it comes to this point, you just check out, and so sometimes we need another voice. And so we want to, Shiley is our youth ministry director and has been really just leading the really just trying to, this newfound growth in our youth department, and really seeing, and not just growth as in kids wise, because we see growth that way, but really growth in how your kids are actually in encountering Jesus, and actually how they're having a relationship with Jesus and how that's going. And so we think that it's important to have her, and where you guys have recognized that and go, hey, she works here, she's part of that staff, and she's part of what we do. So this video will play, I'll be out of the way, and then she'll be up here, and you'll see her on a regular basis, either doing announcements or giving videos, or giving and helping out with that video team. Here's that real quick 30-second bumper to get me out of the way.